Yes, we can. Quick second. All right, welcome back to AM Live. Lots to discuss this morning. I'm trying to be careful not to eat into the time on political party hygiene because we're always rushing through the topic. But let's take a look at what else is on the front page. Raila's moment of truth. Opposition Chief Raila Odinga is a man at a crossroads. He must, alongside his Azimio la Umoja colleagues, decide the fate of bipartisan talks with President William Ruto's Kenya Kwanza, take a stand on the finance bill, and once again tackle his coalition's threat to call for self-determination. Will he chart the uncharted? I also see on the front page here an image of Tina Turner, simply the best. Tina Turner exits the stage, growling songstress, whose explosive stage presence electrified fans the world over, left an indelible mark on 20th century rock with 5 decades of hits. I saw a picture of her, actually, yes, on page, should be page 3 of the Daily Nation. But I'm seeing a quote here that maybe we can look at as well. Leaders, I know you made heavy promises during campaigns. We knew most of them were unrealistic. It is now the moment of truth. Just come out and tell Kenyans that the promises you made were unrealistic. If you try to achieve what you promised, then you're going to break your back struggling to make happen what you know cannot happen. This is Archbishop Jackson Olesapet, who's been quoted here. All right, and here is Tina Turner, an image of her on stage, a powerhouse. They tell us here, and this is a quote of former U.S. President Barack Obama. Tina Turner was raw, she was powerful, she was unstoppable, and she was unapologetically herself, speaking and singing her truth through joy and pain, triumph and tragedy. I don't want to spend too much time here, but I'm just curious if you gentlemen know who she is. Let's start there. Dennis?
Yes, may her soul rest in peace. She was a gifted and talented singer. I follow her even on her social media pages. For the people who love rock, I'm not a fan of rock, but she was a brilliant and a gifted, talented singer. All right. Anybody else want to say anything before I move on?
She was fantastic. As an old soul and a lover of the 90s music and the 80s music, I think I've consumed a lot of her content, and she was magnificent. May her soul rest in peace.
Advice, Joseph? You guys, you know what rumba?
I think by the time you are able to actually warrant such a tribute from former President Barack Obama, then your contribution really must have been immense. So I agree that she really did a lot of justice to the creative industry. But unlike Dennis and Wakili, I'm not necessarily her follower because my type of music is not necessarily this genre, but then her contribution to the creative industry has definitely been immense.
Out of curiosity, what is your genre?
Why do you suspect that
I'm just curious.
You're looking like you're about to say it's from.
Is the music played by Yosua Tongarin?
To be frankly honest,
but at least I'm sure I'm better than the person you've got.
To be frank and honest?
To be frank and honest, I didn't know much of Tina Turner. But from what you have posted there, I can see energy.
Yes.
In that photo.
Yes.
That's all I can say about her.
All right. Yeah. And at the risk of betraying my age, there used to be an ad. I can't remember whether it was for Ever Ready batteries or something. And they used the track, "You're simply the best."
Exactly.
Day job. I'll stay to my day job. But yeah, if you're of my generation, you will know what I am talking about. All right. And also, I'm moving towards the Raila story, which is on page 6 of the Daily Nation. But I'm seeing here as well on page 5 of the Daily Nation, MPs force Hinga to leave meeting after tough questions on housing. And I was just reading through it, and it evoked some images in my mind from that video we made reference to earlier. Housing Principal Secretary Charles Hinga was forced to abandon a presentation on the proposed 3% housing levy following tough questions from MPs. Mr. Hinga walked out in a huff after members of the National Assembly Finance and National Planning Committee poked holes into President William Ruto's ambitious plan to build 250,000 affordable housing units. The MPs wanted to know about the infrastructure in place to handle the billions of shillings that will be generated by the mandatory deductions, the rules for managing the funds, and where the housing levy will be deposited. They also wanted to know if contributors will be paid interest on their deposits and what criteria will be used to allocate the houses. Mr. Hinga had appeared unannounced before the committee, chaired by Molo Member of Parliament Kuria Kimani, to present the Lands, Public Works, Housing and Urban Development Ministry's views on the Finance Bill 2023. He ended up leaving without providing answers to the numerous questions raised by MPs. And let us see anything else that I have missed here. Yes, there is a quote here, and it says that Mr. Hinga began by making a PowerPoint presentation on the benefits that will accrue from the affordable housing projects. When the floor was open for questions, Baringo North MP Joseph Makilap tore into the presentation, accusing the ministry of failing to read the dire economic situation of the majority of workers. I would like to remind the PS that you made an emotional presentation. You indicated that you have been doing this project for about 5 years. Where did you get the money to do this without taxing Kenyans? Why don't you continue to do it without taxing Kenyans through a compulsory housing fund? I see here also quoted is Dr. Ariko making this housing levy compulsory makes it a tax. Anything that is not compulsory is a tax. Are you, satisfied with some of the answers he sought to provide at State House in the company of Hussein Mohammed as well? And apparently, according to this report, some of the questions that have been raised, were raised by members of Parliament. And according to this report, they were left unsatisfied with the answers that were submitted. Dennis?
A good journalist student, you don't just listen to what is being said, but you listen also to the body language. And obviously, when you looked at what Charles Hinga, how his body was struggling to, how his brain was struggling with whatever he was saying, obviously you'd see he was sweating profusely. And him himself, he was really struggling to explain. And at some point, you'd hear him explain to the journalist and the people present, or even blaming them why they were not understanding him. And if you cannot explain yourself and people understood you, I don't know. All these things, these are drama. Also, if you look at how the lie detector test is done, they look at how you sweat, the heartbeats, how your eyes are moving, and obviously you could just tell that even Hinga himself, he was not even understanding whatever he was trying to explain to the people. So how will we, as the members of the public, understand this project? Now, to begin with, somebody earning 30,000 shillings, and you want to deduct 3% of their earning. 30% of 30,000, that's about 900 shillings. And then we are also told, which is not even explained, that the employer will also contribute the same amount of money. So one, have they met the employers? At what point did the employers also agree that they will contribute the same amount of money? So let's go back to the calculations. 30,000 per month, 3% of 30,000 is 900 shillings. Now, if the employer contributes the same amount, that is 1,800 shillings. So compute that with 1 year annually. So that is 1,800 times 12, that is about 21,600. So 21,600. We are also, that is pending. We are also told that for you to actually even own this home, your contribution should be about 3 million shillings. So divide 3 million shillings against the annual contribution, which is about 21,600, Olive, that will be about 138 years for me to own a home. 138 years. Watu ni wakora. Hii watu ni nyang'au tupu. Number two, if you're going to forcefully deduct people, how many people do you think own homes in Kenya as we speak? Let's go by the 2019 census data. We are told about 4.6 million people. We have 4.6 million households in the country. The other day, you saw the meme, I think it was yesterday, this old guy is saying, Nani ana kwao? Everybody has a home, and this is not a priority. If you're going to deduct teachers, and they're saying teachers are not going to be given priority, and most teachers actually stay in the rural. So taxation without representation, that is not a tax, but also compulsory taxation or compulsory deduction in your payslip, that is a taxation. These people cannot explain this. For me, all this is suspect because clearly there's somebody who's going to benefit from this scheme. The government is not coming out strongly and tell us. Number three, we have so many other funds. NSSF reductions ziko mingi. Look at NHIF. Now, why can't the government use the pension fund, which is patient capital in trillions laying around? Why can't we use it and invest? At the end of the day, it will bring more money. And forcing people. Now, another concern that is not also really coming out clear is called affordable housing scheme. The other day they had started it in Kibra. Now we are seeing it in Ngara 1 and Ngara 2. And what is coming out here is not even going to be affordable housing project, because once you're able to own a house, you can be able to sell it, isn't it? Now, when you sell it or you want to rent it, let's say 3-bedroom house is going to be 19,000 shillings per month. So if it is my home and I'm going to sell it or even rent it out, I could charge 55,000 shillings as per market. So then the question of affordable housing scheme is not answered. So I think we really need to interrogate this. But in entirety, I think the affordable housing project is good, but the packaging is really suspicious for me.
All right, I agreed with Dennis, with you, Dennis, when you said somebody's going to benefit. Clearly, somebody's going to benefit. Yes, the question is who, right? Is it going to be the ordinary Kenyan, or these people we hear earn 21,000 shillings a month and have property valued at 537 million shillings, $500 million shillings. Just the last word on this, I think that is the question that is on many Kenyans' minds. Will this benefit the hustler, especially when I had him talking about you'll need to pay, I think, 10% deposit before moving into the house. And he talked about you will need to pay a service charge. Yeah. Does that really accommodate, in your view, advice, the hustler, so that we can get into our topic now?
I think, first of all, the hustler has no pay slip. So even from where they are going to deduct, it's already neither here nor there. But again, to be at least fair to the PS, I think Mbanda does not make the right analogy when he says it will take you 138 years for you to be able to acquire these houses. Because I think the principle that is being used when I had the PS right is the pooling effect. But the issue here is not even the housing scheme in itself. The first problem we are having is that we have a culture and a history that does not help Kenyans trust such processes. Because look at the scandals that we have been able to suffer from the NHIF, from the NSSF, where people have been able, where we have seen previously money get lost. And so the first problem Kenyans are having is that there is mistrust. Nobody is actually trusting that these will actually come to pass. So before we even talk about whether it's realistic or not, first of all, most of the Kenyans are feeling like this is not something that is going to happen, because previously government unfortunately has no record of being very faithful with such funds. And that's a lot of work that really needs to be put into investing in explaining to get the trust of Kenyans. I think that's what government has tried to do in terms of bringing the PS out to be able to speak to this. But I think they didn't achieve much through it, because if anything, the trust will continue to deteriorate because of the mode of presentation and the body language, as my colleagues put it. But then I agree that the aspect of housing is a good thing, but I disagree that it is something that should be forced onto people. At the end of the day, people must be able to understand first, because this, you are touching their earnings. They must really understand you when you're doing that before you go ahead to tax them. And I agree that in all fairness, this is, because it's compulsory, then it's a tax. We don't need to beat around the bush and call it different names and so forth. But first of all, Kenyans must buy the trust. Government must try as much as possible to buy the trust of Kenyans, because unfortunately, the previous record and previous history does not favor government it makes everyone look at it like this is just another scandal in the offing. This is just another problem that is going to come out. So I don't know how they need to do that, but somehow the first thing we need is to buy the trust. Before we even talk about who we are deducting, we first of all need Kenyans to trust that this will end well.
All right. Akivaga, is there in Kenya required a certain level of dictatorship to get things moving? Otherwise, because I remember former President Uhuru Kenyatta kept saying, Kenyans are too litigious. They start a project, somebody moves to court, it doesn't move for years on end.
We have fought for these rights for very many years, that even trying to have an insinuation of us permitting dictatorship, that very insinuation then connotes that we don't deserve any right that we have gotten, because we need to defend vigorously what we have. And part of these checks and balances is what sustains us as a democracy. Maybe I can say something little about this housing issue. We have a commitment, of course, as Kenya, under the new urban agenda, which was initiated by the UN Habitat in Ecuador back in 2016, that there is need to make urbanization livable to people and increase how can I call it, and increase the quality of life for various individuals, for very many people who move to urban areas. And the key among the issues is that we have to look at the housing. And I support this housing issue, but I feel like there has been a gap in communication of the policy, because everybody wants to talk about housing issues, and some of them are telling you that whether you like it or not. And I think such instances don't sit well with Kenyans. But deep down, when I've done some forensic settlement analysis, when I was able to look at P.S. Hinga talking, whereas, yes, he was doing all those theatrics, but I was able to see that he really means what he says, and the government really means well when it wants to proceed with this program of the housing levy. All
right. I've heard of forensic accounting. Today I've heard of forensic statement analysis. But Joseph, I don't know whether to call him your party leader or your former party leader, because sasa nataka tuingilia mambo ya Jubilee, lakini he also attempted, and this is former President Uhuru Kenyatta, he also attempted to implement this housing fund.
First, about Hinga struggling to explain. Albert Einstein said that if you can't simply explain it, then you don't understand it. The PS himself cannot understand how you are getting a house with 3%. Provost Wainaina of Cathedral on JK Live on Wednesday said, this confusion is becoming because first we are not naming the baby. Let's name the baby. Is it a tax? Why is it going through an act of parliament? Is it a saving? Because it started as a house levy. Now, when Kenyans said, Nana kwambia tunataka nyumba, it went now, it's a saving that after 7 years, you'll be given your money back. Now, it is going, it's like a tax. If you can name the baby right, then we can know the direction we are taking. But with this all confusion, tax, saving, house levy, these will not go anywhere. All right. And I want to say the reason my friends are talking that the people are used not trusting the government. Because some people are saying, we had an issue of somebody's head of state saying, gas itakuwa 300. Then when the time came, he said, ni mtungi. See gas, kwanza tupunguze mtungi, then tuweke gas.
Wasn't it clear that it was mtungi from the get-go?
I don't think they understand how all that came. So people are saying that when 15 years are now gone, tukusema nyumba, tuanze na mlango, then tuweke nyumba. So the trust issue with this government is something that Kenyans cannot take in. And even the calculations. You see, even yesterday I saw, I think he was a father in Nyeri, telling people that, who told the president we need those houses? Some of us are even retiring. We have built our homes. If it's housing, let people decide how they want their houses. Don't force us to have the houses the way you want it. All right. Just come clear. Is it a tax? Let's explain from there. But don't come hidden that it's a house levy and you are taxing Kenyans, that when your regime is gone, Kenyans will not be able to recover their money. It will be gone with that regime.
All right. This seems like it's a really hot wire topic for Kenyans, yes, but I will move us along to political party hygiene. Directly translated to what? Usafi? For Machama. Anyway, yeah. Kiswahili sio mdomo changu. When I look at the dailies, some of the dailies today, some of the stories actually inform the conversation. Nderitu, the registrar in Raila's crosshairs, that is the front page of the Standard. When I look at the Star, I see at the very top, actually there's Siasa pullout, and I think it's for the third week running, looks at central Kenya politics. And this is what it says: Kanu Huru regain political control of the Mount Kenya bloc. And even if I go back to the Daily Nation front page, and they talk about, where is this? Yeah, Raila's moment of truth and the bipartisan talks, which have been stalled in part on account of the wrangles within Jubilee, because Azimio says you're not operating in good faith, because one of the issues on the table actually is this political parties hygiene. And so I will start with you, Dennis Mbanda, on the question of the registrar of political parties. One of the stories we read this morning, or rather I read this morning and you heard this morning, had to do with the political parties liaison committee saying Azimio is intimidating institutions. Azimio on the other side says these institutions are being weaponized against our supporters, against our base. Your thoughts on the subject?
Well, thank you again. I think the matter of political parties in this country, it's as serious an issue that really needs discussions that are thorough, because normally, look at the ORPP. About 2 years ago, 2021 rather, you remember when Isaac Mwaura was being removed from Jubilee, because, there was the time between Keleweke and Tanga Tanga. Mm-hmm. And around that time, ORPP as an institution was weaponized. And they were leaning towards the power that be during that time. So right now, you're also seeing the same office leaning towards where the power is. And I do not blame Sabina Chege and Kanini Kega, because they are following where there's power. Now, my concern here is that political parties in this country are just vehicles to achieve an electoral process, after which they're null and void. And I think Jubilee is silently dying, or rather Jubilee is almost dead. Going by the events of the day, you see the tribunal, the political parties tribunal, talking on this other angle, and you see ORPP talking differently. So what is going to happen here is that these cases are going to be taken to court at the end of the day, so that the court can determine what is really happening. And to me, that is wastage of time, because even political parties, the way they are structured, they have internal ways of solving their issues. And now that Jubilee is split, there's a Jubilee Azimio, and then there's a Jubilee Kenya Kwanza. And let us call it what it is. The Kenya Kwanza government, they're really trying to ensure that Jubilee is disintegrated. And I don't know to what end, I don't know what they want to achieve, but clearly, by my own opinion, I would say that Gachagua does not have his own political party. He is a member of UDA as a principal. And UDA, of course, they say is a national party, but him as the second in command, what is his party? What is his base at home? So I think this is an attempt to snatch Jubilee away from Uhuru Kenyatta, so that Gachagua can try to, ajipange pole pole, so that, come 2027, he has something to bargain with. Because clearly, I really doubt that in case Ruto again runs for the second term, I really doubt if he will still go with Gachagua based on so many other issues that I'll reserve for my own sake.
All right. And sorry.
Yes. So what clearly is happening here, Jubilee, I think they have about 35 members of parliament. I think 28 or 29, 22? 32 members of parliament. So meaning they have over 30 members in parliament. And clearly, I think they're the most, they're the third political party in terms of numbers. So therefore, when the political funds will be shared, they will receive about 135 million for the financial year. And that's a lot of money for the office. So here I can see there's a scramble also to own this money. Because believe me, at the end of the day, that money will not be shared between Jubilee Azimio and Jubilee Kenya Kwanza. It will go to one political party, which I hopefully Kioni will be able to sort this issue out.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Advice, there's something is he your former party leader or is he your present party leader? Former President Uhuru Kenyatta said, because Dennis has said Jubilee is dead. I'm just trying to pull up some information here. But Dennis has said Jubilee is close to dead.
It's literally dead.
But there's something he said. He said, basi mna haja gani na maiti? Your view.
Thank you, Olive. I think, first of all, by fact that Jubilee Party has been in the face of conversation for a couple of weeks now, and I think right now Jubilee is the third largest political party in Kenya, and I think the first in terms of conversation. I think there is no political party that is talked about in modern Kenya more than the Jubilee Party. And my friend Dennis cannot talk about Jubilee being near dead when he's a member of a party called Azimio, which has no member of parliament and nobody. So the first thing is
Jubilee is Azimio is a coalition.
Azimio is a political party. Now, on matters of Jubilee, first of all, I would want to say that there is no Jubilee A, Jubilee B, Jubilee Azimio, and whatever. Jubilee Party is undergoing what many political parties have undergone in the past. There is nothing extremely strange about this. But then, at the end of the day, the rule of law has to be observed. Very many years after independence, we cannot be castigating our institutions in the name of glorifying individuals. Because you look at it, and we have processes that take place. We have the ORPP that governs political parties. We have the political parties liaison committee. We have the PPDT, and then we have the internal party dispute resolution mechanisms. These are institutions that are in place in our constitution that are supposed to govern political parties. But we have a problem in this country where we want to over-glorify individuals more than our own institutions. So we look at it, and Raila Odinga today, just because Raila Odinga feels like he is in disagreement with the ORPP, then we must be able to say the ORPP is wrong, and we must be able to castigate the registrar. This is what was done with the IEBC. When the IEBC does not say the things that we want to hear, then we have to castigate the IEBC because we must glorify an individual. And I think that is a pathway that we must cease from going, and we must be able to believe in our institutions. As it stands today, the ORPP, through the registrar and the RITU, was able to come out very clear on matters of the Jubilee Party. And there was a NEC meeting that was held, and the returns submitted to the Office of the Registrar of Political Parties. The NEC meeting that was held, chaired by former President Uhuru Kenyatta, was able to submit these returns, and the registrar was able to categorically say in her response that the NEC did not have quorum, and the NEC had members that were not members of the NEC, and therefore resolutions that were passed in that NEC meeting stand null and void. One of the resolutions of that NEC meeting was to actually hold an NDC. So by fact that those resolutions were null and void, it actually meant that an NDC can therefore not hold. Now, to the same registrar of political parties, a NEC meeting was again held. Remember, Jubilee's NEC has 28 members. Now, a NEC meeting was held of 24 out of 28 members of the NEC of this Jubilee party. And the returns were submitted to the registrar of political parties, talking about now the removal and the ejection of former party secretary general Jeremiah Kioni, Murathe, and the treasurer. and the Registrar of Political Parties okayed and updated her register. And this was done through process. It went through the PPDT, the Political Parties Dispute Tribunal, which sat and recommended that this issue be handled by the internal party resolution mechanisms. Now, the internal party disciplinary mechanism sat down, and all these members who were in dispute, including the former Secretary General Jeremiah Kioni, appeared before that internal disciplinary committee. And this internal disciplinary committee is the one that gave recommendations to the NEC and said that these members, according to this, we find that the two of them should be expelled from the party and one should be suspended. This is what was adopted by the NEC of Jubilee and submitted to the ORPP. Then the ORPP simply accepted that resolution and updated the register of the ORPP. That is process according to our institutions. So we cannot get to a point, then we stop there. Then instead of looking at what institutions are doing, we are looking at how much individuals are shouting and meddling. You ask yourself, is Raila Odinga the party leader of Jubilee Party? Is Raila Odinga the patron of Jubilee Party? Is Raila Odinga the Secretary General of the Jubilee Party, that at this time we have to now listen to what Raila says about Jubilee is what should be the gospel truth? I think that should not be it. If we must be able to move as a country, then we must respect our institutions and run away from being able to be a country where its wishes of individuals are not necessarily our institutions. We have a tangible constitution that is in place. We have tangible laws. We have tangible independent institutions. We must start gravitating towards listening to our institutions and not painting them black and trying to mudsling them every time they do not do as per our wishes. That has gone even up to the courts, that every time the court does not do as per our wishes, we're able to mudsling them. And this is a culture, Olive, that I'll tell you is very rampant, especially in Azimio. Remember, I've always insisted that I'm still a member of Azimio. The problem is that we have formed a culture where when we do not agree or when we question some processes, then instead of facing the issues head on and asking ourselves, why is this person saying this, we are quick to say they belong to the other camp. Just because you have been able to say, wait a minute, why is Jubilee not part of the bipartisan talks? Instead of Azimio addressing the issue, you are told, no, you are part of Kenya Kwanza. Instead of addressing the reality of the issues. Today, Olive, we have seen some members of UDA. They have come out and said that they do not support the finance bill, even when they are members of UDA. I have not seen UDA say they belong to Azimio. We must be able to iron our issues as political parties, as institutions, without quickly laying blame to other people or avoiding the issue by blanketing it and then calling those people and calling them another name. Instead of looking at the issue, you call them Kenya Kwanza. Instead of looking at the issue, you call them Azimio. We must face the issues as they are.
All right, two things, because we need to go on a break, and we'll hear when we come back from Akivaga and Joseph, as well as you, Dennis. But you said Jubilee is still part of Azimio?
Yeah.
Then why are you asking what Raila Odinga's role is in the whole process? And then number two, you're saying just because Jubilee is asking,
yes.
Why they're not represented in this bipartisan talks does not mean they're Kenya Kwanza. What were they doing at a Kenya Kwanza parliamentary group meeting? We come back with more on this on the other side of this break.
It's unfair not to let me answer that.
When we come back.
This week on Twende, we are in Nyamira. Sasa huku, watu wana nini? Apparently, a lot. We cruise on the back roads of Nyamira.
The town, different smells, the colors.
I get to look for hard-to-reach river mouths. And I will tell you why it is hard to see any sheep in Kisii land. Sio meli, kondoo.
Kenya has yet to meet the demand for affordable connectivity for education sufficiently. While all 47 counties have fiber optic coverage, the last mile links to rural parts remain inadequate at a paltry 13.7% compared to urban areas at 42.5%.
What can be done to improve access to ICT infrastructure for connectivity?
Public-private partnerships. We can complement what the government is doing.
If you take the annual textbook budget and spend on the internet, we'll get it done very, very quickly.
The next step in the problem is to make sure that the internet is affordable to those schools.
Join the EdTech Mondays Kenya conversation on 29th May 2023 at 6 p.m. on NTV Kenya.
Step on him, say again. What are you waiting for? Step on him, say again. Again and again and again. Step on him, say again. Put your boots on. Step on him, say again.
What was Beka? This week on Crossover, we will be unlocking infinite possibilities at Mount Kenya University.
Join us as we share the word, great conversation and music kama kawaida from your favorite DJ, Salvation.
Starting from 11:30 to 1 p.m. only on NTV.
So tell a friend
to tell a friend to Crossover. Hapa MKU,
Thika Town, twende kazi.
Crossover in association with Mount Kenya University.
Join us and start your career journey.
Intake is in progress. Mount Kenya University, unlocking infinite possibilities.
Mount Kenya. Pedro, tell me the truth. Are you part of it? Did you help Henna swindle Jana?
Very funny. You think I'm a fraudster. Today was the first time I heard about it all. I swear.
I was cheated on. It tore me to pieces. Yana took everything from me. My face, everything that I held dear, and you betrayed me too. You used me. You betrayed me.
Anna.
Yes, I'm Anna, not Yana.
Cascadia Apartments at Two Rivers Development in Nairobi with a Madaraka offer till 30th June 2023. Price start from 9.2 million. Call us today on 0742 342 722 or text Cascadia to 22365.
Welcome back to AM Live. I was just telling Advice Mundalo that he has confused the enemy today morning. We can't quite place him, you know, but which is a good thing. I respect that. He speaks on the issues per issue as it comes. All right, Joseph, your thoughts, because there is even because something that was raised by Dennis was the Tangatanga Kieleweke time, right? And the line between loyalty to your party and also democracy within the party must, and that is something that Advice has raised, dissenting opinion. You know, there is no tolerance, it seems, in some instances for dissenting opinion within political parties, and yet they espouse democracy.
Olive, thank you so much. But first, I want next time you are calling Advisor Mdaro to this show, he should not purport that he represents Jubilee. He is no longer a National Youth League Chair of Jubilee. The owners of Jubilee Party, over 5,000 members, delegates, we met in Ngong Racecourse.
It was a club
and, let me finish, and we resoundingly said that Advisor Mdaro is a traitor who should not in any way, should not even mention the name Jubilee. So the way he's talking, this is a conman. He's not a member of Jubilee.
That's not a fair. That's
okay.
not really a fair.
I removed that, but
yeah, that's not a fair statement.
He's not a member of Jubilee. He's not a member of Jubilee, and we have some information that he's eyeing UDA Bungoma coordinator.
But I'm looking at my news alerts, yes, and I'm seeing a news alert from Tuesday, and it says, parties registrar Nderitu ratify suspension of Murathe, Kioni, and Kagwe. Satisfied Jubilee NEC follow due process. So who is the fraudster?
So what I was saying here, so that we can get the perspective of what transpired. Before the Kanini group went to Naivasha, where they had their NEC meeting of removing the Jeremiah Kioni and NEC Morathe, a day before, they met at State House, where they were briefed, because it is the public domain, where they were briefed on what they were going to do in Naivasha. And they did it very well. The next Sunday, they joined the Kenya Kwanza government in a prayer rally in Nakuru, where they resoundingly, they were given the microphone to say that they were going to support Kenya Kwanza. In our political parties, if a person does not advance the interest of his or her political party, that person ceases to represent the political party. Because they are not supporting the government, they are representing the interest of Kenya Kwanza government. This week alone, you saw Kanini Kega and Sabina in the Kenya Kwanza parliamentary group meeting. Yes. Why is the registrar of political party so silent about it? If you come with clean hands, you deserve justice. But these people are coming with unclean hands, going to tell Madam Anderito, we have been to the Kenya Kwanza parliamentary group meeting. Now, we want you even to remove Jeremiah Kioni because he's the hindrance of selling our party to the Kenya Kwanza. I want to say this for
you know, really, to be fair, how would she even wade into that?
No, he will wade into that. He will wade into that because this is in public domain. These people have been, even you yourself, you saw them in the Kenya Kwanza parliamentary group meeting. We use logic and just. You don't have to go, this is law and this is not law. Even a judge, when there is law in front of a judge, sometimes the judge will look at the logic. Where is the logic in all?
The judges actually rule on what is before them.
What the judge ruled, in fact, let me go now there. What the judge ruled when you were having the NDC, they suspended the expulsion of Jeremiah Kioni and Akina David Morathe. When they did that, the Register of Political Parties and Derito purported to have written a letter to Jeremiah Kioni on 19th that he has been expelled being member of Jubilee Party. But the letter was not delivered to Jeremiah Kioni until 22nd, 7 p.m. after we had the NDC. Yes. Then, when Anderito was in a media brief, was asked, why didn't you deliver the letter to Jeremiah Kioni on 19th? He said that time they had a lot of issues that were going on. What were these issues that were going on so important than sending a letter? They wrote a letter on 22nd around evening. Then they backdated the handwritten letter to 19th. But what they didn't know that internet does not forget. If you go to the Register of Political Party, the letter that was written to Jeremiah Kioni and sent to Jeremiah Kioni was 7 p.m. Evening. After the NDC, we had a successful NDC. This tells you that there was a person who called Anderito after the successful NDC and told them, I told you to expel these people. Are they still in the party? Then they tried to backdate the letter. Because Jeremiah Kioni was taking the resolution of the NDC with the members that were appointed by the delegates. And then when they are taking, that's the time he's given a hand letter dated 19th that you should not have been part of the NDC because you had been expelled. That's why I'm telling you there is an underhand in all this because she did not even respect the court order that was there. Again, who called the NDC? It was not Jeremiah Kioni. It was the party leader Uhuru Muigai Kenyatta, and in our constitution of Jubilee, the party leader can summon any organ of the party. And he summoned the highest organ of our party, members over 5,000. They made their decision that Kanini, Sabina, Advisory Mundaro, they don't belong to Jubilee. Right. These people are meeting 3 people, 4 people in a presser, trying to do a presser, telling people we are the... let them do the NDC, we see. It can't happen.
Okay, you know, I want to leave the issue of Anderito there because she's not here to defend herself. And justice demands, you know, that both sides get fair hearing. But there's something, Akivaga, that Dennis said, that this is bigger than Jubilee. This is about Central Kenya. This is about Mount Kenya. This is about 2027. Correct. Do you agree?
First and foremost, let me just touch on the issue of whatever is happening with the political parties. I have a feeling that the retribution wheel has come full cycle on Uhuru Kenyatta. The portion that used to serve small parties like Food Kenya and others with malicious pleasure is right now being served on him. The destabilization of political parties, again, as the spirit of a constitution which calls for us to buttress multi-party democracy in this country, has finally come back to bite him. Because during the time of Uhuru Kenyatta, and most precisely when they joined hands with Raila Odinga in the BBI regime, loyalty was, that regime was a disincentive to loyalty among politicians. Because if you were deemed to be loyal to the other person, they could come to you, buy you, use the instruments of war that was in their possession, send you to DCI, I mean, throw every stone at you so that you can change your allegiance. And right now, the chicks have come back to roost. They have come home to roost. And they are roosting in his abode, which is the Jubilee Party. Now, the issue of Jubilee Party is quite complicated. As far as I'm concerned, I know none of those officials in the Jubilee Party right now is rightfully in office. Because I understand in Jubilee Party, their constitution under Section 7 provides that the NEC is the main decision-making organ of the party. The NEC, of course, met and made a decision to expel the 3 people. Of course, they are the majority because most of them are leaning to Kenya Kwanza. And so as it stands right now, I do understand that Jeremiah Kioni and David Morathe, they stand suspended. Expelled. But again, here's the proviso. In the Jubilee Party constitution, there is no provision for an interim capacity. As far as I'm concerned.
That is true.
There is no provision for a member acting on interim capacity. And as we stand right now, Kioni is acting on interim capacity. It is not in the constitution. So none of them is in office legally. That's why you see all these battles going here, back and forth, and they're just confusing us. And because after being appointed, rather, allegedly appointed by the NEC, the individuals, they were supposed to call an NDC. The NDC now is supposed to ratify that NEC decision to have them in office legally. So right now, in the Jubilee Party, Kioni were expelled. Kanini Kega has no power because the constitution does not recognize that the party can foresee having a person acting on interim capacity. Having said that, let me just say a little bit about the issue of party hopping in this country. Party hopping, I think, it's a malaise that we have to deal with right now. And my views might border on cognitive dissonance because I think in as much as I want it to be addressed, I don't want it to be addressed through legislation. I want us to give this a norm approach, like our standard of values as Kenyans, whereby we punish people who party hop. If somebody hops from this party to another, that person should be removed from that elective post in the forthcoming election. Correct. Because the danger of legislating the party hopping and prohibiting members from changing allegiance, then we understand that the party people that we elect to parliament as a representative will be pushing the agenda of the political party leaders with the claim that if you don't toe the line, we will not nominate you to come back to the house next time. We want to give you a ticket. So there should be that provision that if a person genuinely feels that this party does not suit my strategic objectives have outgrown my stay in this party, then I can shift to go to another party. But only those, I know it happens in very few circumstances. Now, on the issue of Mount Kenya, of course, I understand everything is about politics. And we tend to view every issue with the political lens. And I do understand that whatever is happening right now, it is people trying to build their muscle of 2027, to have a party that they will be able to present at the table at 2027 and maybe just lobby for what they wanted. Thank you so much.
All right. Clearly, you have done your homework. Yes. You came armed with your facts. But something I want to get into with you, Dennis. But before then, Rosalyn Obala is usually our producer on Fridays. She sent some feedback. She sent me a message. And she's asked who convenes the party organ meeting. Was Kega meeting in Naivasha properly constituted? The membership of NEC, I imagine she's saying here, is 22, not 28. So that is the question she is asking. And advice, you have shared with me this statement on WhatsApp, and this is the letter from the ORPP. And it states, and let us see, Honorable, I believe it's in, is it in response to Honorable Joshua Kutuni, Deputy Secretary General, Jubilee Party, dear sir, Jubilee Party National Executive Committee deliberations. Reference is made to the above subject matter and your letter conveying inter alia resolutions of the NEC in regard to the National Disciplinary Committee decisions. The office notes that pursuant to the judgment in PPDT, appeal number that and that, Honorable David Murathe and three others versus the ORPP and another, the tribunal observed the need to internally resolve the issues emanating from the Jubilee Party NEC meeting of 10th February 2023. It is further noted It is further noted that the party concluded the disciplinary processes against Honorable Jeremiah Kioni, Honorable David Murathe and Mr. Kagwe Gishohi, wherein they participated in line with Section 14B2 of the Political Parties Act. Consequently, the party expelled Honorable Kioni, Murathe and suspended Mr. Kagwe. Following a review of the submitted documents in line with the PPA and the party constitution, that is the Political Parties Act, this office is satisfied that the party adhered to the due process. Accordingly, pursuant to Section 34DA of the PPA, this office has updated its records at the register of party members. All right, it is signed herein by the Registrar of Political Parties and Nderitu, and it is dated the 19th of May because Joseph has raised issues with regard to backdating and etc. But as I said, I really don't want to get too much into backdating issues because she's not here to defend herself. But Dennis, one of the issues that is on the table as far as BBI, oh my goodness, they call it BBI, the bipartisan talks are concerned is this: political party hygiene. How do we resolve the issue? For example, how does Jalas become a pariah for visiting the president? That's tension between democracy within the political party, being not exhibiting intolerance, right? Because these are democratic institutions. But also I understand there is a need for party loyalty.
Well, let me begin from just give a few comments about Jubilee before I come to that. Uhuru Kenyatta was the president for 2 terms. And I'm actually shocked that small people like Kanini Kega and Sabina Chege are giving him sleepless nights. And I wonder why he took so long to be in charge. And also remember the last time the NDC was called. So Uhuru Kenyatta is a very interesting person. And I'm not really shocked what is happening. This was his own making. Because being a president for 2 terms, it means you have networks everywhere. You have people, you have a base, and the people who believe in you for 2 terms. And then you see somebody that he nominated to Yala, another one he nominated to parliament, are coming out to flex their muscles. Is actually really funny, if not, you know, I really wonder the person of Uhuru Kenyatta, but I respect him as a former president. If you have 3 wives and your neighbor insistently abuses your last wife and comes after your 3rd wife, you as the husband, according to African culture, you're supposed to protect your family. And what Raila Amolo Odinga is doing as the principal of Azimio, he is concerned about Jubilee because Azimio is a coalition of different political parties. And before Azimio was formed, we have so many other political parties that came to form the broader Azimio. And they signed agreements. There are agreements if we want to leave the marriage, there's a certain process that has to be followed. And obviously, we are seeing the Jubilee Kenya Kwanza trying to be in marriage with Kenya, with the UDA. And you can obviously see the dirty hands all over of Kenya Kwanza inside the Azimio marriage. And the question is, who is going to benefit from all this conundrum and this confusion? Who is going to benefit? So Raila Amolo Odinga, he's in his right place commenting and trying to figure out how the Azimio political parties, all of the political parties within the Azimio are protected. Who sent Sabina Chege to Kenya Kwanza? Now she's saying she's the party leader. Who had sent him there? Who had sent her to represent the bigger Azimio, the bigger Jubilee? Nobody sent her. She is there in her own accord. And obviously that is the reason why you see they are being expelled. What is actually also very funny for me is that immediately after the NDC, you could see the supposed Secretary General Kanini Kega trying to also come out strongly and flex his small muscles. And what he was saying is that the Jubilee Party is comprised of about 34 members, including him, who is a member of Yala's 35. And he's saying that the NDC was, members of parliament who attended the NDC were about 2 out of 34. What is actually laughable is that political parties are not only comprised with the members of parliament that represent that political party in the parliament, they're comprised with supporters, delegates. And you obviously saw on Monday, was it on Monday? Yes, on Monday. 5,000 delegates representing the bigger Jubilee, speaking in one voice. And to me, I think moving forward as a country, we really need to come back and start having these discussions, because I'm really worried. The old guards, are they running out of ideas? What is happening? I want to plead to young Kenyans out there that this country, to move rightfully in the right place and compete with the global world, young people need to come out strongly and talk about these issues that affect our country. Because we cannot have political parties that do not even have ideologies. We have political parties that are vehicles for elections, and after which they're dead. Our neighbors in Tanzania, we have CCM. If you look at Zimbabwe, we still have ZANU-PF. These are independent political parties, and they're very strong. If you look at South Africa, we have ANC, and ANC stands for something. What does our political parties in Kenya stand for? And my plea also is that the most divisive thing in this country is presidential election. And over, I think presidential elections should not be reduced to just competition among few people, which is also very divisive. So my humble appeal would be, moving forward, we need to have competitive presidential election where people stand for something. Look at Mr. William Ruto right now. He's looking at us straight to our eyes and lying to us. He's not even blinking, straight to our face. He's still blaming the former regime, 9 months or 10 months into his administration, still blaming the former regime. I think young people should come out strongly and defend the future of this country.
Right. In all fairness, he said during the interview at State House Nairobi, he did say, Kenyans want to hear solutions. But Joseph, and Joseph has really wanted, advice I'm coming to you, yeah. But Joseph has really insisted.
You see.
He wants to weigh in on this. But Joseph, there's something that has been raised by Dennis, yes. And that is, why is Uhuru Kenyatta being given sleepless nights by, quote, the small muscles? This is not me. This I haven't measured them, of the likes of Kanini Kega. Where was he?
I'm coming there. You see, Akivaga brought something, and I saw my friend Mundaro agreeing with him that in Jubilee we don't have anything to do with an interim Secretary General. Mm-hmm. Deep inside the politics of Jubilee. So when I speak this, I know what is going on. Anytime the acting SG, who is not even there, writes a letter to the registrar of political parties, the registrar of political parties does not reply to Kanini Kega, because the registrar of political parties know there was a ruling that was done by the court that squashed the decision that was done in Naivasha, purporting to make Kanini Kega the Secretary General. What the registrar of political parties does, instead of replying to Kanini, who has written the letter, he replies to Joshua Kutunyi. that one can tell you the underhand that is happening there with other people playing games with it. That's why I'm telling you, if you go to the courts, we'll bring that registrar down. Number two, Banda has said that President Uhuru is being small muscles, flexing President Uhuru Muigai Kenyatta. One thing I can tell you about President Uhuru Muigai Kenyatta is a very peaceful man. Very peaceful. In fact, that is the word. During election, I want to take you there. When these people who are in government purporting to be his friends, they went up to Ishaweri, Gatondo, the door of his mother, to insult the mother of President Uhuru Muigai Kenyatta. That time he was the president with all the power. When the President Kenyatta took the microphone, he don't represent them. He said, wacha watukana mamangu kabisa, nimewachia Mungu. But one day, God will repay them. So Uhuru does not enter in those fights that utaona. But it has come to a time, President Uhuru Kenyatta has stamped his authority, and in NDC he said, wanadhani wanaweza nitisha. Sasa tutaangaliana na hawa watu. And I can tell you, in this battle, these all people, and Akina Kanini and Sabina, they will be crushed by Uhuru to dust. Because I'm telling you, Uhuru in Mount Kenya, right now as we are talking, is being sanctified by the people. Because he had warned them, and the people are coming to terms. Lakini Uhuru alikuwa ametuambia. I'm telling you, if today Uhuru Muigai Kenyatta does a road show in Keno or in Nyeri, I'm telling you, there is no chance for UDA. And that's why it's a do or die for UDA to muscle Jubilee out, because they don't want to have a different opinion in Mount Kenya, and they will have it, whether they like it or not.
All right, we have about 3 minutes left. So advice, I will quickly, I'll allow you and Akivaka to your last words, but advise this question of the ownership of parties, something that has been raised by Joseph, is some of the statements made by the former president in regard to just because he's a peaceful man, si atiye ni mwoga. But in terms of ownership of parties, is there a problem? Because ideally the owners of the party should be at the grassroots level. Is there a problem? Because now we are hearing decisions made at this level and now we are just endorsing.
Now, there is a lot to which political parties operate. And unlike my friend Joseph, you know, Joseph is a high-ranking blogger. His work is to sell narratives. I sit on the neck of Jubilee. I don't come on this panel to sell narratives. That's why Joseph will tell you about who wrote the letter of the Register of Political Parties, who wrote the letter in Jubilee, basically to peddle narratives and come up with a theory. Mine is to tell you the reality of things as they are and to stick to the rule of law as it is now. And that's why part of his job description this morning was go and call advisor conman. And that is how you get your paycheck. But be that as it may, what needs to happen, I told you, Olive, in the first place, this country has institutions. You realize I don't talk about the individuals, I talk about the institutions and what they are doing. The moment we lump ourselves in conversation about individuals, we lose the whole point. And that's why Dennis Mbanda says that former President Uhuru Kenyatta made Kanini Kega Yala MP, when that is a function of the parliament. That is the thing that we are supposed to run away from. Because we can't call Kanini Kega small muscles and whatever. These are processes that are there and they're there in law. So you cannot be able to bring them down into ridiculing individuals, calling Honorable Sabina Chege names. No matter how many names you call that person, it does not negate the process of law. And that is why I stick to the issue of, let us look at what the law says. And there was a question about why the neck of Jubilee has not held an NDC. The neck of Jubilee has not held an NDC because there is still a case at the PPDT. You cannot be able to go ahead and hold an NDC when there is an internal process that is not yet done. And that is the law. And that is why the purported NDC that was done cannot hold, because it did not observe the dictates of law. What the neck of Jubilee is doing is that it is operating in strict compliance to the dictates of law. And one point that I like to really deviate from my brothers is when he says that former President Uhuru Kenyatta is allowing small people to battle him up. Remember, former President Uhuru Kenyatta has been the party leader of Jubilee for a long time and the president of this country. And he has operated in strict compliance of the law. President Uhuru Kenyatta was president when we had the BBI. He did not use the power of the president to bring down or to change the decision that came about the BBI. He did not like it, but he stood by it. We came and held the election. President Uhuru Kenyatta supported Raila Odinga. We did not win the election. Former President Uhuru Kenyatta handed over power. So let us not be able to make it look as though when somebody observes the law, then they are weak people. And I can assure you, even in this process that is happening at Jubilee Party, former President Uhuru Kenyatta will not stand in the way of the law because he has the history of standing by the law. And that's why as things go, trust me, the process that is being followed duly by the NEC will come to effect, and former President Uhuru Kenyatta and former Jubilee Party leader will endorse that process because over time, we have known him to stand in compliance of the law. So it is not about how many rumors we peddle and how we make others look bad. At the end of the day, it is about what is the truth and what exactly does the law say. Not peddling and saying who wrote a letter from ORPP, and we are aware that we sit in the corners of ORPP. And I like what all of you said, that we cannot talk for ORPP because they are not here. We can't sit here and purport to know who writes letters at ORPP and who doesn't. We can't sit here and purport to know who writes letters at Jubilee and who doesn't. We must be able to tell Kenyans the truth. And rather, we want to tell the Kenyans and members of the Jubilee Party is that the Jubilee Party is undergoing what it's undergoing today, but this process is going to be over very soon. All these cases that are happening right now, we have a case at the PPDT which will be decided next week. Then from there, possibly, the NEC of the Jubilee Party will gazette the NDC that is supposed to be held to then ratify who the new officials of the Jubilee Party are. But as it stands now, nothing changes, the status quo remains. That's why you've not seen the registrar gazette any officials from the purported NDC, and that is the law. And that's why I sit here today. I sit substantively as the National Youth Chairman of the Jubilee Party.
Aya, Joseph umesikia. Aya, basi, I know you have a different view. Hata ameshika kichwa hivi akasema gani? Anyway, Akivaga, in a minute, 30 seconds, please. I'm overrunning, as we call it. But is the issue then personality politics? That is what is dogging us?
And it is the issue where we have to move away from, the issue of personality politics. But sadly, that has been the case since independence, since when we had only one party, and even since during the multi-party times, the political parties have been used as special purpose vehicle. But as I close, my message to maybe Uhuru Kenyatta will be this, that whereas some of my friends here are supporting him in time, I was rhapsodizing him in the womb of time, way before he even contemplated vying to be the president. And so he's a guy that I like deeply. And as the current events go on, my pledge to him, which I ask him to disregard 100%, is that he should just quit politics and just stay at home and be a father figure to all these political leaders in this country.
All right, so we'll leave the conversation there. My name is Olive Burrows. I'm sorry, Joseph and Dennis. We never finish. We've had in studio Akivaga, Jayuga, lawyer and political analyst. I'm tempted to add poet. Joseph Chege, youth leader, Azimio. Dennis Mbanda, political analyst, Advice Mundalo. Joseph. National Youth Chair, Jubilee. That's Thank it. Sharia Radio Meets TV on The Morning Fix coming up next.